Very nice to meet you.
Hey,
Hey, Matt, how are you? Great to see you again. It's so good to see you again. Hey, Raven, how are you? Nice to meet you. How are you? So good to see you. How are you, Mark? Nice to see you. Chris,
Good to see
thank you
you
for
again.
having me. I appreciate it.
Have a seat and remind us, it's been a bit since you were in front of us, so remind us why you would like to be a circuit court judge.
Sure. For most of you, I know I came before you back in 2014. I know I haven't gotten to meet you yet, but the reason why I really put my name into this is because I believe that circuit court judges and judges in general are kind of the linchpins that keep our practice and keeping civility and maintaining civility within the legal profession. I think that we struggle constantly with public perception, and so I think judges are the ones who have to maintain civility in the courtroom, make sure that people who come before the court, who come into the courtroom themselves, have their issues treated fairly, equitably. And I feel like I am the person who kind of embodies those things. I have worked my whole life since I was 13 years old. I went to work as a landscaper. I've worked hard, so I've tried to do everything I could throughout my career to just put in a hard day's work, make sure that everything that I did to the best of my abilities. I believe that I've treated those opposing council members fairly. As a prosecutor, I've strived to always make sure that whatever case I was handling, I always treated opposing counsel with the utmost respect and dignity, and try to strive for justice. So I want to be a judge because I know I'm be good at it. I think that I would embody the qualities that I think we seek for in our judges, and that's what I want to do.
Since your last before us, have you done anything to prepare yourself to be a judge? Have you sat in on a docket? I mean, anything like that?
Sure. Well, since the last time we were together, there's been a few things that I've done. Mostly, I've continued to strive to work hard as a prosecutor. I've handled, for the last 3.5 years, I've been the traffic homicide prosecutor for Duval County. Those cases require, obviously, a lot of attention. I have received an award recently from the Jacksonville Mayor's Victims Assistance Advisory Council for Best Judicial Advocate in Duval County. I continue to try cases. I continue to go into courtrooms daily. I've spoken to a lot of different judges on the bench in Duval County. I've spoken to judges that are on the bench down in Volusia County. Just trying to continue to do the things that I've been doing for the last, since the last 7 years at least as a prosecutor. The last time I came through, I got some pretty good advice and feedback, one of which was to get a little bit older. I've done that successfully. And I just try to continue to do the best job that I can in the criminal justice. And obviously, I think I talked about this last time. I think as far as it goes with the cases that I handle, I think that they're about as close as you can get to the civil world. It's not the civil arena by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they're about as close as you can get. They're very litigious. They're heavily expert laden. There's traffic reconstruction experts. There's DNA experts. There's so many different facets to these types of cases that I think that it, again, as close as you're going to get in the criminal justice world, it's about as close as you can to the civil world.
What would you say to private practice attorneys to make them feel at ease of the fact that you have never had any private practice experience? I have seen judges that do not understand the nature of billing and what it takes to bill and actually make a living at practicing law. And you have chosen to work for the state, and that's a noble profession, but you get a salary. Private practice attorneys have to run businesses. They have to be in lots of different places at lots of different times, some of them the same time. And they have to actually bill and have those billings sometimes reviewed by judges. And private practice attorneys kind of get a little uneasy when they have a judge that has never had that experience. So what can you say to put those fears to ease?
Sure, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. A couple of things I would say. Number one, yes, I've only I've been a prosecutor for the last 8 years or so. But before that, I've done some other things. I did spend 5 years in DC working for a congressman, and prior to that, I worked in the restaurant industry. I put myself through school, working in the restaurant industry. I was a manager of a pretty successful restaurant. Even in Tallahassee, I was bartending and doing things like that. So I get the idea of what small businesses have to go through. I understand that there's a lot more that goes into just the practice of law when you're a small business owner and you're a private practitioner. I understand that you've got to balance books. I've got to understand that you've got to be in one courtroom in Volusia County and maybe another courtroom the same day in Flagler County. I understand that there's a lot of trials and tribulations that go along with those practices. And I guess what I would just tell you is what I would handle it the same way that I've tried to handle myself as a prosecutor, and that's everyone will understand that they will be treated civilly, they will be treated respectfully. I understand the challenges that they may undergo, and I'll make sure that I treat them in a way that allows them to if they have, I'm not going to require them to be in my courtroom at a specific moment and while they have to be somewhere else. I mean, I'm going to be understanding and work with them to make sure that they're able to maintain their practice, and that's the best way that I can see handling.
I have the pleasure of vetting you, and either you don't have them or you've hidden them very well from us, the people that are mad at you or think you're unprofessional or dislike you. We're hearing from judges how much they enjoy you appearing in front of them. We're hearing from opposing counsel that you're a pleasure to work with. We're hearing from families of people you prosecuted and families of victims that you've represented that like you. So what's sort of your secret sauce in working with those groups and getting them to leave the case feeling good about you and the work you did?
Communication, I think, is number one. I think that you have to sit down and you have to explain things to people. I think that you have to treat them civilly and you have to take the time and listen to their questions. There are cases, especially in the DUI manslaughter realm, you have to understand that each case is a little bit unique. There are people who come into the criminal justice system for the first time who may have never done anything else wrong in their whole lives and made one really critically bad decision that had really, really horrible consequences. There are others who come into the system who may have had 4 or 5 prior DUIs. As you can see from some of the cases I've handled, those are the people that I've always prosecuted heavily. Those are the people that I go after and try to seek higher sentences for, because I believe that if they've been through the system a few times, they had their opportunity, they should have changed. But I think that that's why people respect me, is they know that I'm even-handed. They know that I'm going to be fair. I'm going to treat them fairly. I'm going to look at each case individually and look at the entire picture. I'm not just going to come in and just try to be a heavy-handed sword. I'm going to listen. And again, I think coming full circle, I think communication is probably the ultimate way to make sure that people know that you're listening and know that you're going to treat them fairly.
Do you plan to move from Ponte Vedra to the community in which you would be placed with respect to this position?
Not originally, no. I mean, my goal would be to stay in my home. I recently bought a house in Ponte Vedra about 2 years ago. We love it there. My family's very happy there. I've got my kids in the school system in St. Johns County, which we absolutely love. My son is involved in the Ponte Vedra Athletic Association. I'm very happy there. So my goal would be to commute to wherever I'm placed. For the good of the order, wherever that happens to be, that's what I'll do, and I will do that for as long as possible. If it turns out that wherever that is, if it's DeLand or Daytona, and if I'm there and it doesn't really look like there's going to be any other opportunities for me to maybe take something on closer, I know that things can change, whether it's St. Augustine or Palatka or here. If that is going to be the case, then I'll have to reassess about possibly moving somewhere else in the district. We started off in Daytona. My first child was born down in Volusia County. Bought my first home in Volusia County, so that area is very near and dear to me. I have family in Orlando. My father lives in Tampa. I have a lot of family in Jacksonville. So, right now I'm living in Ponte Vedra. It's where I want to stay, but certainly if it comes to the point where I need to reassess that, then that's what I'll do.
Come on, Tam,
So-
people don't move out of St. John.
But however, with a follow-up question on that,
Sure.
Ponte Vedra is just about, no, it is as far as you can get away from any place that has any position
Sure.
within our circuit. And so with your time management, the fact that you said that you're involved up in Ponte Vedra, how do you think you're going to be able to get involved in whatever community that it is that you will be presiding in?
And that's a great question, because I think that, you know, especially now, you want to make sure that you find judges who are going to be reelectable and that they're going to be staying and be able to maintain their seat. And so I think it is important for whoever is selected, whoever the judges are that you nominated and finally appointed, are able to get involved in the community. And so I will continue to do that, whether it's also in Ponte Vedra. I will also make sure that wherever I'm seated, if it's Volusia County, I will join the Bar Association. I will make sure to attend the luncheons. I'll be active in the community. I can pull that off, I think, fairly easily. I mean, you just have to seek it out and do those things. I think it is very important to do it, and I will strive to do that, whether it's, you know, no matter where it is. But I think I'll also obviously still stay active in my community in Ponte Vedra and still, you know, going to my kids' schools and pulling weeds and doing the things that I try to do and volunteer over at his school and still be the assistant coach for his baseball team. So
Just to hammer on this question, I see you applied for the Fourth Circuit. Was that Jacksonville?
it was.
How would you have answered that question then?
Well, I would have had to move. Candidly, at that point, I would have had to move.
Yeah.
And that was some of the feedback that I got when I put in the Fourth
Yeah.
Judicial Circuit was, you know, we'd like to see you actually move into the district. And that, you know, if that's the case, then that's what I have to do. And here's the bottom line: I want to be a judge, and I hope that you all want me to be your judge, because that's really what my goal is to be a judge. I love the Seventh Circuit. I love where I live. If you give me this opportunity, it lets me stay in my current house. If I got in the Fourth, I would have to move immediately before I ever even took office or took the seat.
Are we the worst? Are you in the 7th and we say, you gotta move, and we're in the 4th and say, you gotta move?
Well, there's this imaginary line that kind of runs between the two, and right now I'm living on one side of it and working on the other. It is for a wall. But, you know, candidly, having you know, worked and lived down in Volusia County and now worked and lived in Daytona, or, you know, in Jacksonville, and then living now in St. Johns County, you know, it's all fair. You see the same faces. I mean, it's, you know, the system itself is pretty much the same. It's just there's on this imaginary line, and you got to live, you know, in the district where you're seated.
Lee, thank you. You know our process. We'll be getting back with you by the end of the day.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Lee.
I appreciate it. Good to see you.